Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. I am very pleased to have with me tonight someone who most of you probably already know who he is, but I'll give you a. Uh-oh. See? With me tonight, most of you probably already know. See? Did you hear that? All right.
I think did, yeah.
It's okay. We're okay. Michael Sisco. He has been called by one right-wing commentator the linchpin of the right-wing movement. But since I think Michael knows himself better than I'll ask you, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
You flatter me, but pleasure. Thank you for having me, young penitent. Yeah, I guess I'm a kind of a jack of all trades, primarily Orthodox Christian. I've going on 10 years this summer. I've started out doing political theory on a podcast that kind of launched me into the world of politics. I worked on a few campaigns and moved into, and I ran my own campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had my YouTube show kind of at the same time. There was some overlap there. It really got inactive with that, and got back into pro wrestling, which I did in my early 20s. Ethan Ralph dragged me back into that for Ralphamania, which was fun. I didn't have time to stream or hardly because I had to train. I had to do some serious training for that.
Oh,
I was training 2-3 nights a week for eight or 9 months. Actually,
2 or 3. That's it.
Yeah, and then I was lifting, but you don't want to take back bumps like every night of the week.
Oh, okay. Oh, you were training. Oh, you were actually training like moves, wrestling moves.
Yeah, the wrestling stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like going off, taking the falls, taking the bumps, learning how to do the moves, take the moves, etc. Learning how to stay safe and keep your opponent safe, and so there was that, and I moved to Texas. I abandoned the dream of doing the Appalachian nationalism, and I moved to Texas, where I will marry my fiance in 2 weeks, or just over 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks. I don't know, on the 14th, whatever. I'm getting married on Mother's Day. So yeah, that's what's been going on.
That's great news. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And that way it'll be easier for you to remember your anniversary and Mother's Day. They'll coincide.
They won't always be on the same day because Mother's Day is always on a Sunday.
Oh,
but okay. I did do that on purpose because I figure I can just combine the two in the future and just have one go out for one meal.
There you go. They will be close. If not on the same day, they'll be around the same time.
Yeah.
So you just shared quite a bit with us. There's actually a couple of things I want to ask about your history, what you've just shared with us. So first of all, how did you find Orthodoxy? Like what, it's 10 years ago wasn't so easy to find necessarily. So like what led you how did you find the church?
Well, I guess this could make its own episode, to be honest. So I'll give you the brief version, but there is a podcast with Dissident Mama where I was a guest and I told my whole story.
Oh, okay.
So if anyone's watching and they want more details, they can go there. But basically, I was at a low point in my life, lost everything I had. Somehow, well, let me preface this. About a couple years before I actually inquired into Orthodoxy, I had visited. I wasn't even Christian. I was raised Pentecostal, left the church. Well, if you could call that a church. dabbled in occultism, Islam, like everything you could think of.
Mhm.
I was exploring.
Sure.
I was deployed to Egypt in the army right after the whole Mubarak, the whole Arab Spring stuff.
Oh.
And during that deployment, I had the opportunity to visit Jerusalem, and I went to the Holy Sepulchre, where Christ was crucified, Golgotha, went to inside his tomb where the holy fire descends. And this experience, like I could just, the holiness was almost like tangible. You could feel it. And it was like nothing I had ever felt before. It wasn't like the tinglies in the Pentecostal service. It was different. And I would even see people like venerating Christ, like the stone that his body was laid on, and so I just felt compelled to do the same thing. I didn't know what I was doing. I literally did the same. I just copied them. Then deployment ends, a couple years go by. I didn't know what I was seeing. I didn't associate that to any sort of church or whatever. And I stumble into my last stop before Orthodoxy, which is the Mormon Church. And growing up, I had never had the concept of there being a one true church. As a Protestant, it was always like, oh, well, I had this view of like the umbrella, the church is all the Christians in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And well, the Mormons introduced to me the idea of there being a one true church because they believe that they're the restored true church. And I got into their books. I read Doctrine and Covenants and The Pearl of Great Price. And given my reputation, this is kind of funny. The part where they talk about the mark of Cain being like an indication of some sort of moral failing in the pre-existence of the soul, like in the earth. I was like, you know what? I don't believe that. And so I was like, I think there probably is a true church, but it's not these guys. So I decided to just start studying early church history. So I resorted to the most academic resource, Wikipedia, and that's actually how I discovered the existence of Orthodoxy.
Huh.
And I kind of got, I read a lot online. Had to choose a side with the Great Schism.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to email the Catholic priest. I'm going to email the Orthodox priest, both in my town, give them a fair shake. The Catholic priest never responded. The Orthodox priest, Father Gregory Matthews Green, responded immediately, which I later found out to be a miracle because he doesn't respond to emails. And he invited me to church. I actually met with him before I even went to liturgy. So we met. He just explained what it was all about. And then I showed up to liturgy, and all those feelings that I had at the Holy Sepulchre and going in Christ's tomb, I was like, this is that. Like it was the same draw, the same feeling, which of course I don't have every time I go now, but it was obviously the Holy Spirit working in me. And so I just knew then that I wasn't going anywhere else. And the lasagna during coffee hour sealed the deal.
Sure.
I'm kidding, but
no. I mean, I'm not joking when I say that those meals after liturgy was one of the things that kept me coming back after my first, experience. Hey, a young, hungry college kid, sure, why not?
Well, honestly, there is value as far as the communal aspect. That's it's coffee hour where you're really building your bonds with your community and the church. So it's important.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you maybe had some, like Christ says, the kingdom of heaven is like leaven. You might have had some leavening, like put into your soul when you were in Jerusalem, and then it's sort of slowly, leaving the whole lump, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. And it certainly wasn't a fast process, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
You could say that. So, sometimes I think we get discouraged when we try and introduce people to the church and they don't like immediately take to it and start coming, they'll visit, because it certainly wasn't like that to me. You would think that going in Christ's tomb would be like an instant transformation, but it was not. It was not. Certainly played a major role in coming to the church. So,
okay, now you're doing wrestling. How did you actually were fighting in matches back? And you said when you were in your 20s. Or how?
So I always wanted to be a pro wrestler. In my early 20s, I grew up a huge fan. I've watched it as long as I can remember. As long as I can remember. I was introduced to it at my grandmother's house because I wasn't allowed to watch it at home because it was violent. But I would watch it at grandma's house and then somehow found a way to keep watching it after she passed away. I guess by then I was old enough. My parents let me watch it. But yeah, I ended up going to wrestling school in my 20s, and I trained a long time and was basically ready to start having matches. And then just life happened. And I never ended up, being a full-time wrestler. And so I always regretted not going through with it and having a match. And then I started co-hosting the Kill Stream on occasion. In 2021, I think, is when I started going on the Kill Stream regularly anyways. And he starts talking about wanting to do a wrestling show. And I was like, you know what? I was kind of joking at first. I was like, I'll do a match for you. I used to do that. And then it turned into me organizing the event, me booking the wrestlers, me training intensely for my match, and then putting on a great show, and then my match not actually happening because we ran out of time, so we had to call an audible for the sake of entertainment.
Really? Okay, so that's what happened. Well, why don't we? You know what? Why don't we just bring this up right now? I found his match on YouTube, so we're gonna share that with folks. So tell me while I get this pulled up. They actually have what do they have amateur leagues or something that you work your way, or pro minor, or how does that work?
Well, there's indies, so there's independent promotions, and then there's really only three major promotions in the US. It's Impact, WWE, and AEW. But there's various wrestling promotions throughout the country, varying in size. There's no amateurs. If you're a pro wrestler, you're a pro wrestler. You still get paid to wrestle.
Okay, so this is Ralphamania, and I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play a few minutes. So this was interesting. I thought you had planned this and you wrote the script, because isn't pro wrestling scripted?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's totally real. But no, this result was a mid-show decision.
Okay. So let's play this first, people, a little bit.
Wow, White's chat breaking out in the crowd. Well, have you ever been to? First off, you've been to a wrestling show?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well then you're really.
And the next contender.
There is sound to it, but I think it's.
Hold up.
is a man who needs no introduction.
Oh shit! The lights just went out.
He's the close pin of the right wing.
See, it's going to be.
Sisco!
Oh shit! Sis.
This is Ralph.
Goosebumps here. The crowd is hot. Cisco, let's go. Cisco, let's go.
Hey, we got high fives.
He comes up. You know what? We're not even going to pretend to be unbiased here. We're all in for Michael Cisco.
The people's champion.
That's right. Cisco's got the Crisco out because he's about to do some cooking. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on right now? Circling the ring.
Like vultures.
Cisco and Savage both in the ring.
They're teaming up.
Looks like these other guys are trying to attack. I don't even
there's
know.
the bell, ladies.
I don't even know what's going
It's
on.
brutal.
Now, wait a minute.
It's brutal.
Wait a minute.
Outnumbered,
Wait,
outgunned.
hold on. This can't be a regular match. What's going on?
Pearson, get a handle on this.
Pearson, what's going on?
Pearson's
Come
fighting a
on,
woman. Pearson.
Get a hold of this.
Oh my God.
Oh, no! No!
Pearson's out for the count. Pearson, get up,
Oh,
big
my
guy.
God.
We need some chants for
Can somebody
the.
get some help out here? This
can
is
we-
outrageous. Can we get some help, please?
You ain't getting shit. Fuck y'all.
Wait a minute.
Okay, I don't think Beardson even got hit. Is he drunk?
No, he took a turn. He took the turnbuckle. They shoved him violently in the turnbuckle. He also had like 15 drinks.
Yeah.
So I think that had something
Little
to do
column
with it.
A, little column B.
Yeah. No, come on. Come on.
This isn't wrestling.
Cisco and Savage both get taken to the woodshed. Come on.
Fuck you, this building belongs to the white man.
Oh my God, they're dragging Pearson into the middle of the ring. No! No!
Ref.
No! Oh my God!
Oh wow, they did that move to him.
He's done.
Oh, this one is.
This
This
is
is fun.
executions
So
on each of them.
Were you able to hear the sound on it? I'm not sure.
I feel like
Yeah,
you're watching an
okay.
ISIS video.
Okay, so
Oh my
well,
God!
see, so that's funny. I thought you guys had
Oh,
planned
no,
this,
it's
or you know, like I thought it was like a surprise. Everyone was expecting Michael
Oh,
Cisco to
my
win, you
God.
know. So
This is just brutal. They're not even listening to the bell
everyone
at
was
all.
probably flabbergasted. This is actually, you know, this was probably the best
They don't
outcome
care
that you
these
could have
people
had
have a
because you just
family.
surprised
What in the
everybody.
world?
you
Come
know?
on.
The bell means stop, guys.
So I think this is. I wanted to. You know, this is good. So he basically just lays there and they walk off, and that's the end of it. So I'll just
This is unbelievable.
stop that. Hold on.
What in the world?
The audience, they weren't vulgar at all.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about the. Sorry about the. I should have warned people about this is a family-friendly show, so sorry about the any language. So that's what Michael Cisco has been up to. He used to have a YouTube channel. Now he's pro wrestling, and so you're an organizer. This is actually, you know, you were able to organize the Trad Forum for a couple years in a row, and you were able to organize this whole event here. You know, so that's actually a very valuable skill, you know, especially for political movements or even in the church, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised if you know, you don't have your you're not on some sort of list, or there's a you know, that's like a thing that people would want to keep, or there's a file on you somewhere. I'm pretty sure.
like with the feds or what?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Well, and you know, we know that you yeah, I mean, right-wing movements and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I have some questions about that kind of stuff. But I guess, yeah, since we're talking about it, why don't we talk about the politics a little? So you're into politics, right? I mean, you follow this. By the way, how did your congressional run, when you ran for Congress in 2022, right? How did that end in the voting and all that? I mean,
Well, actually, the redistricting kind of messed me up. It put me against Alex Mooney, who was already endorsed by Trump before the redistricting happened. So I ended up dropping out before the election because the polls were indicating that I would take votes away from Mooney, and he would end up we would both lose to the moderate candidate.
Oh, okay.
So I decided to drop out and endorse Mooney, and then, which was a good decision because Mooney then went on to defeat the guy that really motivated me to run to begin with. I didn't like him, so I don't even remember his name at this point. But yeah.
Okay. So I guess I was going to ask you about. I mean, let's get your opinion while I have you here. What is your opinion of the upcoming 2024 presidential elections? Who are the likely candidates? Who do you like? Talk about that for a while.
I mean, if Ye runs, I'll support Ye. But
what happened to Ye? What happened to
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any inside knowledge. I have no idea what's happening.
Someone says Vivek. Do you know who this is?
No.
Is that someone who's running?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't know. I see some familiar faces though. I remember Slow Boy Whiteboard.
Sure.
I remember him. So, hello.
We kind of have an interesting twist in the thing with Kennedy. Announcing his.
I like his speech. Trump obviously has to re-earn my vote at this point. That's kind of how I feel about him. I don't like any of the other Republican candidates unless Ye's running. But as far as the announced candidates, I don't like any of them. I feel like they all support that they work at the behest of interests that aren't really the will of the American people or even in the best interests of the American people. I don't really care about the will of the people. I care about the well-being and good of the people. But RFK said he hit on some interesting points during his announcement speech. And I was intrigued. I'm still intrigued. I'm interested, and I certainly would love to see him give Biden a run for his money in the primary. But I lost a little bit of optimism when I saw him doing his apology tour with
right.
I don't want to get you in trouble on YouTube.
Yeah, so I appreciate that.
I have 2 strikes on my channel, so it's basically gone.
Okay. I have a warning, or that's it. So, well, what about your? I actually wanted to know about. So you said you're friends with Nick Fuentes.
Yeah. Well, we're not like super close. Right. I don't want to over.
But you know him. Yeah. Is he? So I assume like he's eyeing the presidency at some point. Isn't that like his whole? What would you say? Does he have any chance in the future, do you think, of becoming president?
I don't know if he has those aspirations personally. I mean, maybe he's joked about it. I have no idea. But, I mean, in my opinion, he's talented enough. And but it really just depends on, there's a lot that it depends on. I mean, he's censored pretty much everywhere. So but as far as like being able to communicate his views and I think motivate masses, I think he would do really well. I don't know if he can overcome being banned everywhere and all the forces. Like he can't even have a bank account. So like, will he be able to have a campaign bank account? Like, I'd probably not, to be honest. So, I don't know. I think he's more capable than any other candidate as far as talent. And I obviously agree with him on most of his political views. Hope he becomes Orthodox.
Yeah.
And he honestly seems to be acknowledging Orthodoxy really frequently lately. It's interesting. But yeah, it's hard to say what the future holds, as the guy can't even have a bank account. So he was put on the no-fly list for a year. He was banned off of Twitter still, even with Musk. So yeah, I think it might be more optimistic to say that maybe his movement will, or his political commentary and organizing will bring forth the candidate of that generation, so to speak. Or maybe the last elected official of all time in the West. Maybe that.
Okay, so why don't we shift? Let's shift it here. So you have moved to Texas, and tell us what was your motivation for moving to Texas?
Honestly, I met a woman that lives here and goes to. I happen to know her priest pretty well. I think your audience probably knows him pretty well too, Father John Whiteford. So it just made, I wanted to stay in West Virginia forever, but that was really selfish aspirations if I was, going to make this work. Her family's in Texas. I lived an hour and 45 minutes away from church, so it would have been a weekly trip out to, which I did make by myself, but like if you're thinking about like raising a family and dragging kids to church, so I was really thinking long term.
Okay,
It's like it would probably make more sense to move down to Texas, be part of a church community here with a great priest, not live that far away from my church, and have the support of the in-laws and whatnot with any future children. So yeah, I came down here about in September, mostly, and I roomed with some people from church. I didn't want to have everything happening at once with like moving and planning a wedding and all that. So I moved here in September. I got a job, worked for quite some time. I'm still working, obviously, at the same job, but we get married in a couple of weeks on Mother's Day. Oh, hey, Father John. He says, "Welcome to God's country." You know what? I heard my entire life horrible things about Houston. Houston, you don't want to go there. It's a bad city. But it has exceeded my expectations. It's really, for the size of it, it's almost the same size as Chicago, okay? And Chicago is a dump. I would not describe Houston as a dump. It's actually pretty clean downtown. It's sleek. It's nice. Yeah, there's some rough spots, but I'm originally from Baltimore, and it's nothing like Baltimore. So I've been pleasantly surprised by Houston. The food is fantastic. Absolutely amazing. And aside from my parish, the Orthodox community is really awesome. Okay, there's a ton of churches and a lot of really good priests, including Father John. But the Orthodox community is good all around Houston. And it's gigantic. It takes like 2 hours to drive across from one side to the other in any direction. It's really big. It's huge. Obviously, I like the countryside where I am better than downtown, but I'm pleasantly surprised. The food is really good. The Tex-Mex cannot be beat. It cannot be beat. And the barbecue is starting to grow on me. I like the barbecue. And yeah, we do shoot back here. So there's castle laws in Texas. I like that. It if anybody comes in, we're good. I got my Got my AR-15 hanging in my closet, So it's all good.
So tell us how you met this. How did you come to meet and become engaged to this woman?
I met her online. It's like Orthodox people. You kind of have to, if you want to. I guess there's really only two ways to go about this as the Orthodox. You got to either flirt to convert, which I didn't really want to, bank on because that's pretty risky. Or you meet somebody that's like on the other side of the country because there's really just not that many options when you only make up 1% of the population. So usually somebody has to go somewhere. Somebody's got to move most of the time.
Sure.
So, but it's okay. Like when I think most Orthodox people are going into relationships with the intent of marriage. So it's not like anyone's going to drag out a long distance thing any longer than necessary. So,
was it a dating site?
No, it was
Oh.
Instagram.
Huh.
Good old Instagram.
I've never used Instagram.
I think it started out with a joke. She had found me from watching David Patrick Harry's channel.
Oh, okay.
And then she just followed me, and I noticed that he was following, that somebody else was following her. So I just was kind of joking. It was like an Orthosphere joke. I was like, "Look at you," and then yeah.
All right.
She wasn't really like a fan at that point. She didn't watch my show.
Oh, okay.
She just knew of me because of Kotel. She had seen me on Kotel show.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. And so, do you guys plan on having a large family? Is that the plan?
At least 10 children.
At least.
At least.
Okay. Good plan.
Whatever God blesses us.
This is now this leads us to the discussion that we have chosen, the main topic actually. We have chosen to talk about this fertility collapse and what to do about it. So let me share here. Get this view. Where are we? So this is an article that you shared on palladiummag.com about fertility collapse. Fertility collapse demands new cultures. And people don't know, people might be under the wrong impression, actually. People might be thinking, there's 8 billion people in the world and there's too many people, right? But the thing is, the too many people argument is sort of an environmentalist kind of hogwash. There's enough. The earth can feed, can support 8 billion and could even support more if needed be. But if you read this article, if you pay attention, you're knowing that actually we don't have too many people. It looks like we're heading towards a collapse. And so, which could be a dangerous thing that can accelerate. So it says a fertility collapse takes about 30 years before it causes a population collapse. And once that happens, the collapse is inevitable. So you kind of, you need to have children to support, because the children are going to become the workers, and you should have a pyramid, with a few old people and then working people in the middle, and the base is the children. But the pyramid is getting inverted now. We're getting a lot of old people, and right now the working population is it's enough, but the amount of children is small, and it's not going to be able to support the pyramid. It's so what can we do about that? I mean, what is I understand you have some thoughts about this.
Yeah. So, I think it makes an interesting point. Basically, we have a culture of death, which I think he even talks about in this article, which is interesting because they don't always on this site talk about they don't always hit on social issues that often. Their main thing is like political, kind of an eye from the sky on political futurism or government futurism. But really, our culture of death, it will lead to a societal collapse, and the population collapse will lead to a systematic collapse at every level. But he makes the point that for those of us to have a stake in the future, basically we just have to show up. And the way that we show up, that we can get our side to show up and people like us, Orthodox Christians, to show up, maybe even, well, we'll just stick with that. But people more sane than just the literal Satanists that run our country, to have a stake in the future is to show up. And the way that we show up is to just do what our dying culture isn't doing, and that's reproduce ourselves. I actually brought this up to Father John last week, and he made a good point. He's like, well, you can't just do that, because we have to know how to insulate ourselves and protect ourselves, because the culture reproduces itself by brainwashing our children, right? So just merely having children isn't going to do any good if you send them off to public schools and even college, in my opinion. So, because evil forces, they know that they have to brainwash our children. That's why you see like drag queens doing the story hours to the kids. It's obviously targeted towards the children, right? So we have to insulate and protect our kids. But more than that, we have to teach them the pitfalls when they're old enough of secular ideology, versus the truth of orthodoxy. But yeah, we do have to build the parallel culture, like Orthodox boomer grandma says. That's exactly what we have to do. And yeah, I mean, I still believe, I don't believe in, like, I know, what's the guy's name Rod Dreher, he wrote the Benedict option, which I liked that book, but I think he's a little naive to an extent. He kind of assumes that you can run off, create this parallel everything, and that the government's just going to leave you alone if you do that. That's not how it works. They're not going to just leave you alone. So I do think that some of us still need to be actively engaged with the system, to basically advocating for what we need. Well, for our rights, for one, we have to engage with it for truth and justice, for truth's sake, honestly. But at the same time, we have to protect our community from corruption, especially our children. So yeah, that's how we win. We show up and we have a stake in the future because we're the only ones there.
So you're saying there's two parts to this. One part is having families and having children, right?
Yeah.
And even large families, because that can, the term that they're using in this article is intergenerational durability, which I think means just the ability to basically procreate and have kids. And I don't know.
Yeah, well, I gotta be careful. You're on YouTube. I almost referenced, you know.
Oh yeah.
But we don't want to do that.
Well, that's another problem is, for people the fertility is going down, and it's pretty obvious that it has to do with environmental factors. That's the big elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And it's also, anyhow,
Yeah.
But so
It hasn't seemed to have stopped the children in my parish, at least, you know.
that's good to see. Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's true. There are various things that have affected fertility aside from the what I did not reference at all
Right.
on the YouTube. There are a lot of things that affect it, but there's also a lot of ways to kind of mitigate that the other way with diet and health.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
um,
So having kids is the one thing, and the other thing is just passing on the culture. You're saying, living it and protecting ourselves.
yeah, but we have to be aggressive with that. We have to be very aggressive with that because you can't. It really is idiotic to send your kids to public school. It's just insane.
Yeah.
I went to public school and it was bad, but it's worse now. They can literally castrate your kid and put them through and transition their gender without your permission. And they don't have to tell you about it. Like that's insanity. And not just that, it's what they teach your kids. So why would you put them? I'm not against like the concept of like a public school system. I think a responsible state, would obviously want to have the interest of educating the populace. Is I can understand. Even though the czars of Russia did that, and it was probably to their detriment, to be honest, because that's how the revolutionary ideas crept in, was through the academia that they had instituted in their efforts to imitate the West. But I'm not opposed to education. I certainly want to educate my children. But our regime is just Luciferian. And whenever you're relying on a public regime that's dictated, that's just a school system that's run by the regime that we're living under, is not something that I would ever voluntarily send my children to if I had a choice not to.
Sure.
So, and right now we still have a choice. So
I assume so it sounds like your fiance is on board with, probably agrees with you on these matters.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I think probably more militantly than I do.
Wow.
I think it would be a problem if I said, "Oh, I want to send my children to public school." I think that would be a big deal, which is good. So, but yeah, it's not really that complicated of a plan. It's like just reproduce and show up.
Sure, it's what we do. As you said,
Yeah, but it is interesting. It's even like there's always been like a bit of a battle within Orthodoxy too, right? There's like these infiltrators, subversives in the church that are leftists. Like we have Orthodox Boomer says deal breaker, Michael. Yeah, it probably would be. But yeah, there's factionalism within the church. There's a more traditional side of it, especially prevalent in jurisdictions like Rocor. And then we have these subversive liberal elements that are more prominent in other jurisdictions, not to be named. But this works within the church, right? Like, how do we dictate the future of preserving the church? Same thing. The people that are trying to mix orthodoxy with the false religion of the progressive state ideology, well, they're probably also not really reproducing either, right? Because they're infected by the disease of the culture. And their kids are going to be the ones running off, going to public school and getting brainwashed and leaving the church.
Yeah.
So
I heard that the retention rate, even in the Orthodox Church, is actually, I don't know if this is accurate, but someone told me it was like less than 10% of children. People in the chat can correct us if that's not an accurate. But I hear a lot of children actually don't stay in the church through their whole lives.
I think that would be true of some of the mainline ethnic parishes, churches, and it's probably a little dated. Like observably, I can say what's been happening since COVID. I don't know. I know since the I probably shouldn't have even said that word, but since the pandemic happened, when some of the churches closed and shut down, they lost a lot of people and they haven't filled back up.
Right.
But the churches that resisted or very quickly realized what was happening and shifted course and opened up, those parishes are packed. There's no room. They have to build new. They're building, like my church. We're building a new building. The parish I went to when I lived in West Virginia just built a new building because they were too big.
We need to expand at our parish too.
And I don't know the exact count of catechumens, but I know we lost some at Pascha because they got baptized, but they were replaced almost immediately with new catechumens, and it's crazy. There's
So why is it? Why are our churches all of a sudden full?
Well, I think, like, I was talking to a visitor. Well, he's not really a visitor anymore. He's like, I can't remember his name, but he was at Pascha, and I saw Sunday was like his third service. And I was talking to him, and I was like, what drew you? Why are you here? How did you find this? And he said that the lockdowns and everything that was going on really revealed to him and his wife the spiritual warfare that was going on, and that woke him up. And that's just how he found, through his searching out the truth, encountered us, and that's why he's there. And of course, he also said that he specifically did his research to see which parishes were afraid and shut down and which ones weren't. And that's why he chose to come to our parish. So I think a lot of the boom is just people realizing what's happening and seeking out tradition, because it really is. Orthodoxy is the strongest force against the utopianism and the state, really the Satanism that is being perpetuated through the progressive vision. It's the biggest force against that in the world, and that's why people are being drawn to it. No other reason. It's just getting more obvious now to a lot more people.
Yeah, I think that comment that this person that you mentioned, what he said, that probably that could probably explain many people's why they came. That's not just him. He's just expressing what happened probably to many people.
Yeah. Somebody said we need a new crew of bishops. Well, I try and be forgiving, because who in their right minds would believe a couple of YouTubers like myself? I was one of the ones sounding the alarms before any of it. Well, at least with the rollout, I was against the measures being taken early.
Sure.
And I was already looking at, before the medicinal procedure came out.
Experimental procedure.
I was looking at where the funding was for the technology that was going to be being used in it. And I was like, whoa, hold on here. And I was warning everyone, and I lost a lot of friends over that. And then years later, a lot of them have apologized and said that I was right, and
wow,
they were wrong.
You actually got an apology.
Yeah, from a few of them. Yeah,
I didn't get any apology.
but yeah, who in their right minds would believe like a couple of whack jobs online versus what's supposed to be the source
Right.
of objective authority, the CDC.
They got this veneer of what's the word?
Objectivity, like they're science, right?
It's so sleek, they sell it
Yeah.
packaged and
So I try to be forgiving. Like Antioch said that they would never do that again. So yeah, I try and be a little forgiving with that. I myself during all that was seeking out places to go that weren't like I was getting I had to miss Pascha because that was right in the beginning. The church that was near me was closed. I think I went maybe 4 months without communing, maybe longer, before I finally found a place that I could drive hours to. And I don't ever want to go through that again. I don't want to ever miss another Pascha again. But I think it's good to forgive those who, in good faith, believe the wrong people.
Sure. Yeah, I spent that Pascha that year. I was actually in the state hospital. So I was watching it all from inside the locked facility, but I did have internet. I was able to use the internet, so I was able to see what was going on out in the world. I watched Pascha from a computer that year. And I was watching also, I think Roosh did a really good job because he knew, he was talking about it on, on his streams and stuff. He, right from the beginning, he saw through everything and he was talking about it. Not a lot of people were doing that. Let's see. We kind of went past this a little bit, but I want to go back a little bit. Do you have any thoughts about intentional communities? Like there are a couple places where, let's buy 80 acres and build divide it up into lots. I heard of one experiment, I guess it was in Tennessee, that fell apart. They tried to do that. So it seems like it might be a difficult thing, but people want to do it. People have an interest in creating these intentional Orthodox communities.
Could
that work?
I don't really think so. Not that way. There's too many issues that could arise when you're like parceling up property like that. I think the best way to do it is kind of organically, the way that it's happening now. Center around a parish that already exists. I tried the whole I obviously thought that this could. It's like, oh, we'll get everyone to go to this little town in West Virginia, and it just didn't. Nobody's gonna pick up. It's hard to get people to get up and move, first of all. But no, I think just become part of the community where you're at. Move near a church or a monastery, and usually there's a parish near a monastery for lay people, non-monastics. So, and just become part of the community that way. I know my parish has a brotherhood. We do things like, I think at one point we were talking about getting like a emergency radio system in place in case the phones and satellites go down. So we think about that sort of thing. I know my town, even though I'm not in the town that my parish is in, I have Orthodox neighbors within walking distance. And hopefully we can have a mission out this way, because we're about 40 minutes from my parish. But no, I think building it around like already existing communities is the real way to do this. Just move to the town your church is in, basically. Be near other Orthodox people. I don't think you have to parcel up land that way. I know I have an arrangement with my old roommates. They have like 3 acres. My house is within walking distance. I have a pond on my property. I'm gonna stock it and like fish farm basically. And then their property, there's livestock that he'll let us have some chickens and stuff. We can chicken share. We know how to farm. He doesn't. So we can do some crop sharing and stuff, stuff like that. Like just help your community out, your parish. Like be a real community in your parish. That's all there is to it. Live near each other and live near your church and support people in your church.
I like it. So we're coming up pretty close here on an hour, which is about what I like to do my streams at. Let me see, couple final questions. Do you have any advice for the young men who are trying to get into a relationship, trying to get married? Sometimes it's a tough go these days. It feels, there's a lot of people out there are they're down about it's getting them down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I got lucky, to be honest. So I think I would read like St. John Chrysostom's homilies on like what to look for in a spouse and really what the purpose of marriage is. Find someone that has that same outlook. That it should be about the sacramental journey towards theosis together, not a transactional, like what can I get out of this in an earthly sense. So I think that's how you should approach it. If you have to find a spouse outside of Orthodoxy, at least have someone that has that similar mindset and similar morals and values. I'm not endorsing out of or mixed marriages from that perspective. I'm just saying. But there are some, as far as like where to meet them, I think from what I've observed, there's a Facebook Young Orthodox Christian Singles group. And it seems to be very successful.
Wow.
I know someone that met his wife, just got married last week on Orthodox and Single.
Mm-hmm.
So that has had some success. You also just have to realize that if you're going to marry another Orthodox Christian here, more than likely it's going to start out long distance, and you have to really put forth the effort to go visit, like go to her town, have her come to your town, that sort of thing.
Okay.
It's just a reality, and then somebody has to make the move. I made the move just because it made more sense in our situation. Everybody's situation is different.
Right.
So I was in a position where there wasn't really anything holding me down there. So
that's a good answer. And so what about your future? Are you going to come back to YouTube, or are you going to be producing content at all? Is that something you can get a blessing from your fiance for? Is that?
Father John just said, cultivate relationships with Orthodox old women and they will set you up. Yeah, that's probably good.
The old women are the ones to follow. We have an old woman in a nearby parish that is a saint. I feel, she's been around, been going to church her whole life since she was a little girl, knew St. John.
Wow.
And she just like drips love, like these old ladies, you can just see love, like just falling from them,
Yeah. Hopefully someday that can be, but, yeah, I was thinking about, I did actually get the blessing from my fiance, as long as I allowed her to be the producer due to my old horrendous production quality. So I promised her that if I do it again, that the production value will be superb and she will be my producer. Thinking about doing it on geopolitics and with a splash of history and political theory, but primarily geopolitics. I think there's really only only one show worth listening to I can think of that even covers that specifically. YouTube, probably not going to happen because I have 2 strikes on my channel.
Okay.
So the one more and it's gone permanently. So I'm thinking.
But those strikes, don't those strikes expire after like 90 days or something? Or
No.
oh, really? Huh.
Yeah. My first one's from like a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
At least I don't think so. But I mean, I don't know. I had 2 strikes, one more, and it's a permanent suspension. So I think it would be better to use like an alternative site like Rumble, or if they'll have me, maybe Cozy.tv. I like them.
Or
If
Rockfin.
if they'll have me. Rockfin, I don't know. I like
Oh.
Rumble.
Okay.
Odyssey, I don't really like.
I think Rumble's the alternative to go to. It's kind of working out that way.
Yeah, that's true. And it seems to be has a lot of seems to have some it's pretty popular. So seems to be like a promising place to start a new show, and I don't really want to be on more than one platform, to be honest. I don't want to be doing the whole splitting my audience thing between 2 places and all that jazz. So I just want to be in one place. So I need to pick one and stay there. But yeah, I might even raise some money soon so that towards my good production, because I really want to. I just don't want to go through the steps of struggle that I went through before.
You're gonna start a GoFundMe, help Michael start a show.
Maybe I'll do a Give, Send, Go,
or whatever it is. Yeah, well, I hope you do, man. I was a fan of your show on YouTube, so I hope you do. Hope it comes through. I mean, you have a lot of ideas, and sometimes not all of them make it to fruition, but some of them do, And so we'll see. Thank you so much for coming on my show. That was a great interview. I want to actually end on this. I want to show this kind of this. This is where. Wait, share that screen again. Whoops. I want to just show the last bit of that. Here, those who will throw their chips in by consciously creating a family and then raising it in an intergenerationally durable culture will shape the future of our species. So that's kind of a hopeful note to end on, I think. So throw your chips in, all you young men out there. The culture that we're in, they want us to just kind of, I don't know, you waste like 10 years, like, what am I doing? And then get yourself together, get married, get a job, and have some kids. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Then you won't be depressed. That's like that. That's like what we're supposed to be doing. That's our that's the way God made us, and then you'll be happy, probably, I imagine, or go become a monk. That's my thing, but if you're not going to become a monk, I like to encourage monasticism. I mean, that was my interest, but
yeah.
If you're not going to do that, then go start a family. So again, thank you, Michael. Any last words, final words you want to say?
Sure. If you want to just keep an eye out on if I end up streaming again, which would be after my wedding, probably in June, follow me on Twitter at Michael Sisco TX, or Telegram, which I think is t.me/themichaelsisco. I think.
Those are both in the description below. So just click on those. Follow Michael. All right. That's the broadcast. Thank you all for watching. Good night.